Muchas gracias a todos, a Gerardo, a todos por estar aquí, a todos los estudiantes también y por supuesto gracias a los integrantes de la comunidad NDEE por estar aquí. Ellos estaban en la mañana en Protección Civil dando una primer parte de este taller, así es que, bueno, gracias por asistir. Ese es el motivo de la tardanza, pero nosotros nos hemos tardado más de 500 años en voltear a ver a los pueblos indígenas. Yo creo que podemos esperar los 40 minutos fácilmente, ¿no? Bueno, vamos a hacer la presentación de este evento y enseguida les daré la palabra a los compañeros que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Muy buenas tardes a todas, todos y todes. La Universidad Autónoma de Ciudad Juárez, el Departamento de Ciencias Jurídicas, la Licenciatura en Seguridad y Políticas Públicas y el proyecto CONACYT de Ciencia de Frontera 2019-87176 les da a todos la más cordial bienvenida a este taller titulado Historia y Vocabulario del Pueblo NDEE. Esta es la segunda sesión de un taller que comenzó el pasado invierno de 2022, en el que integrantes del Pueblo NDEE impartieron un curso a profesores de la universidad titulado La Historia del Pueblo NDEE en Ciudad Juárez. En ese curso el objetivo era rescatar de la sombra la presencia del pueblo NDEE o apache en el área de Ciudad Juárez desde que se tiene documentado en la cultura del papel, además de agregar algunos de los recientes descubrimientos que comprueban su presencia en la zona. Así, entretejiendo entre la historia oficial, el pueblo NDEE nos hizo comprender en aquel curso la tremenda importancia no solo de su participación en la historia reciente de México, sino de Ciudad Juárez entera en esta misma historia. Es por eso que ahora es un gusto volver a contar en la universidad con la presencia del pueblo NDEE. Muchas gracias por aceptar esta invitación, es un verdadero lujo para la universidad recibirles aquí nuevamente. Esta segunda sesión del taller surge del convencimiento de que la importancia del lenguaje está en que es un hacedor de mundos. Así, cada lengua es una hermosa ventana a formas diversas de entender el mundo, a distintas cosmovisiones, como dirían algunos. Es por eso que la muerte de una lengua es al mismo tiempo la muerte de un mundo entero. En ese contexto, la Asamblea General de las Naciones Unidas proclamó el periodo comprendido entre 2022 y 2032 como el Diseño Internacional de las Lenguas Indígenas del Mundo, con el fin de llamar la atención del mundo sobre la difícil situación de muchas lenguas indígenas y movilizar a las partes interesadas y a los recursos para su preservación, revitalización y promoción. La universidad, por supuesto, no podía ser ajena a este llamado y en armonía con él hemos considerado necesaria la defensa de las lenguas indígenas y sus mundos. Este convencimiento nos lleva a la comprensión del título de esta charla, que es Historia y Vocabulario del Pueblo NDEE. Ahora voy a presentar a nuestros queridos invitados. Es para mí un gusto presentar al señor Robert Stevens. Él es instructor certificado del Departamento de Preservación de la Lengua Apache en San Carlos, Arizona. Un aplauso, por favor. También es para mí un placer y por segunda ocasión aquí en la universidad poder darle la palabra al señor Martín Cristóbal Rojas Guevara. Él es miembro de la comunidad NDEE en Ciudad Juárez y él fungirá en esta ocasión como nuestro traductor. Un aplauso también, por favor. En la mesa contamos también con otro compañero del cual no tengo los datos.
Fernando Hernández Quesada, mucho gusto.
Fernando Hernández Quesada, un aplauso también, por favor. Y bueno, sin más, vamos a darle la palabra a nuestros invitados para que nos expongan acerca de su hermoso lenguaje.
She Bob Stevens Gonzalez in the Ashley San Carlos, Arizona, study gonna shaw. Di Nichi Yashti in the Bayek Goze Kuren yuhi ai shibiel tidet dan sego. Ara da kero hi nagurles. Indini ka juhi nek aun tinti. Ko hiet nesli kurichi. Ko jon go zeonko. Chichi chesko jon. Kuren yuri chingil egul zeonko. Abera wege nai kain go aku bayashtin so. Indini ni tichi hinu fi chego ahin leni hinu tinti. Ko hato sa nek au yara teni chos ande. Thank you very much for inviting me here. My name is Bob Stevens, and I am a member of the San Carlos Apache tribe in Arizona. And I am a certified Apache language instructor. I'm also a historian. I know the culture very well. I still practice the culture. I still believe in our old ways, and I live my life in as much of the old ways as I can.
El señor Bob Stevens se presenta. Le da gusto estar aquí. Dice que él es un instructor certificado del lenguaje NDEE y que trata de vivir su vida lo más posible de la manera antigua, the old days, la manera en que se vivía antes.
I apologize for not learning Espanol before I got here. My teacher over there, Vanya, she was trying to teach me, but I didn't have the time. I'm very busy at home. I work for the language preservation department of our tribe, and I am a field supervisor, so I'm in charge of quite a few projects that we have. I also write for grants for our tribe, for our department, and so far we've gotten about 5 grants in the last 3 years. So we've been doing pretty good on grants, and that's how our department stays alive. But also we're archiving everything that we do, so everything that we have done in the last 4.5 years, we have it archived, and we're going to set up a resource room pretty soon. By the time I get back to San Carlos, I'll have my job waiting for me again.
Dice que se disculpa por no haber aprendido español antes de venir aquí. Le echa la culpa a su instructora Vania, pero que ha estado muy ocupado en casa. Aparte pues trabaja para el Departamento de Preservación de la Lengua Apache de la tribu de San Carlos, Arizona, y es el supervisor de campo, y que ha estado muy ocupado porque ha estado busca apoyos para preservar la lengua. Han obtenido algunos apoyos sustanciales en los últimos 5 apoyos en los últimos 3 años, y esto va a servir para archivar, para tener un archivo de lo que es la lengua y preservar.
I also teach a Zoom class for Apache language, and it's available on Facebook, and it's a free class. And Vanya here is one of my students. Mr. Rojas is also a student of mine, so they can tell you that it's a really good class to take. I make it very easy. I have a technique that I use to teach new students how to speak Apache, because Apache is one of the 2 hardest languages to learn in the entire world.
Tiene una clase que da a través de Zoom, es una clase gratis, son los martes y los jueves, que tiene de alumnos aquí a Vania y a un servidor, y que tiene un método muy diferente de enseñar, y ya que el Apache es uno de los 2 idiomas más complicados que hay en el mundo.
So what I said to you when I started, I wanted you to hear what actual Apache language sounds like. I didn't use a single word of English, and that's my generation of my tribe. I'm the last generation to speak the language fluently. We did a language survey, and my grandparents' generation, almost 100% spoke Apache. My parents' generation, that number dropped to 85%.
Bueno, dice que trató de darle una muestra de lenguaje al principio, que no habló ni una sola palabra de inglés, para que ustedes escucharan lo que es la lengua Apache, y pues que hicieron una encuesta, y pues determinaron que sus abuelos hablaban, el 100% de sus abuelos hablaban, o de la generación de sus abuelos hablaba Apache. El 85% de sus padres, la generación de sus padres, el 85% hablaba el idioma. Entonces va reduciendo.
So we come to my generation. My generation, the number drops to 50%.
Y llegando a su generación, bajó al 50% de su generación los que hablan el apache.
Here's the scary part. My children's generation, that number drops to less than 10%.
Y la parte que asusta o que hay que preocuparse es que la generación de sus hijos cayó hasta el 10%, únicamente los que hablan apache.
And then the worst part is my grandkids' generation. That number drops to lower than 0.1%.
Y la peor parte, la generación de sus nietos bajó al 0.01% de habla. Y eso es dentro de una reservación. Imagínense el impacto acá afuera.
So that gives you an idea the direction that our language is heading. My generation, there's still enough speakers to save the language. But in my kids' generation, there is not. So they made an estimation that our language is going to be gone in about 25 years, because in 25 years, I will be in my 80s. And health issues are going to start to hit, and people start leaving this world around that age back home. So if we don't do anything about it now, we're going to lose our language forever. And we will no longer be able to call ourselves Apache.
Dice que pues esto nos da una idea de la dirección que está siguiendo el lenguaje, y que se ha estimado que el lenguaje puede desaparecer en 25 años, porque en 25 años, por ejemplo, su generación pues estará alrededor de los 80 años, y que la expectativa de vida de donde él viene es alrededor de los 80 años. Entonces, si no hacemos algo para preservarlo hoy, este idioma se extinguirá para siempre.
So with that being said, sharing that information with you, I'm very honored to be here to pass on that language. In our culture, you don't have to be Apache to learn the language. You become Apache by learning the language. Language, like I said this morning, is a bridge. It's a bridge between you and the world around you. So you got to build that bridge. If you don't have that bridge through language, you really don't know who you are. You don't know where you come from. You have to originate from somewhere. And that language puts you in a single spot. And that's going to be your home forever. And then from that spot, you learn to start touching the world all around you through language.
Una vez dicho lo anterior, pues bueno, que va a pasar a la clase de lenguaje. Dice que nuestra cultura no es necesario ser apache para aprender la lengua, pero puede aprender la lengua aunque no sean apaches. Ahí como que se puede volver apache. Se puede hacer apache si aprende la lengua, dice. Y la otra parte, que el lenguaje, como dijo esta mañana, que el lenguaje es un puente entre uno mismo y el entorno que lo rodea. Por ahí ya es este.
And I've spoken in quite a few universities in the United States. I am recognized as a professor in 5 different universities across the U.S. I've helped students gain their credits under foreign language when they were able to change it to their own native language, which is San Carlos. So I was able to work with the University of Arizona, Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, UCLA, Oklahoma University. I've worked with quite a few of them, and they recognize me and have me listed as instructor for Apache language. So those are my credentials, and I got my certification, and I teach language to young and old. It doesn't matter who.
Okay, que el profesor Steven está reconocido como profesor por al menos 5 universidades de los Estados Unidos, que ha ayudado a los estudiantes nativos a que obtengan calificaciones una vez que cambiaron, cuando les pedían un idioma extranjero, como seguramente lo hace aquí la Universidad Autónoma de Ciudad Juárez, un idioma extranjero como complemento de la currícula. Allá lograron que les valieran tener un idioma nativo para completar su currícula, y que ha ayudado a varios estudiantes a lograrlo, y mencionó algunas de las universidades, de las cuales puedo recordar la Universidad de Arizona, la Universidad de California, la Universidad de Oklahoma.
Okay, so what do you say we all learn how to speak Apache today?
Que ustedes dirán si quieren aprender a hablar Apache hoy. Y antes de eso, olvidé comentar que dijo que enseñan por igual a chicos que a grandes.
Do we have a lesson we want to start on?
We have the lesson there. Do you want to use the whiteboard? Bueno, empezamos con la clase.
I'll start over here.
Estos son algunos de los temas que se verán en el día 1. Números, colores, saludos y presentaciones.
Numbers. Numbers are easy. You can ask my two students here, what's my technique in teaching the Apache language? It being a very difficult language, what's my technique? So, I have what I call, and these guys know it very well, I have what I call a drunk line.
Dice que utiliza, bueno, que puede preguntar con sus estudiantes, que utiliza una técnica muy peculiar, que él le llama la línea borracha, o the drunk line, estar borracho, y se refiere, bueno, a la acentuación.
I signified a drunk line by doing this. This is what I do. When I talk about the drunk line, I talk about talking with expression. Putting feeling into what you say, because the Apache language is a very expressive language. And the reason why I reference it to a drunk line is because when you get stopped for DUI, suspected drunk driving, they always tell you to walk a straight line, one foot in front of the other. Well, here we want to be drunk. We want to go to jail is what I tell you guys. We want our line to be like so. So you want to talk with expression. So that's why I always say, let's do the drunk line. Let's not walk a straight line. Let's walk a crooked line. Let's all go to jail together. That way you get your point across a lot better.
Okay, most of the audiences understand that in English, but I will. La mayoría de la audiencia entendió en inglés, pero bueno, voy a tratar de traducir. Se refiere a la línea borracha, por empezar al revés, que cuando lo agarran conduciendo le piden que camine derecho, y pues que él aquí lo que nos pide es que caminemos lo más curvo posible, esto para darle una acentuación propia a las palabras, para que el sonido de las palabras no suene monótono.
First number we have up there is 1. The way you say 1, sa'eh. Bar L, you go. That's how you say the bar L. The L with the line through it. The line through it is. But when I talk about the drunk line, you got to be able to put the right sound into your word. So this is what I do. I draw a line. And this is the tone of your voice, how the tone of your voice is going to change. It's going to go, the sa'eh, is how it goes up and down. The sa'eh, that's how it should sound when you say it. Some people say, the sa'eh, the sa'eh. It's just like saying you walking up to somebody and you say, hello. It sounds very generic, it sounds very plain if you say hello to somebody. But you could walk up to somebody and say, how you guys doing? Nice to meet you. You put expression into what you say. And the more you put expression into what you say, the better your Apache is going to sound. The more you're going to get your message across. Because remember, Apache language is very, very expressive. So this right here is what I mean by the drunk line. We don't want to be walking a straight line in front of the police. This is the kind of line we want to walk. So that's what I use when I go to class. I always tell everybody, if you see me doing this in class, that's what that means. They all know what it means. I say, this is the drunk line. Let's talk with expression. So if you want to go on to, let's go number 2. Number 2 is an easy one. Naki. Number 2 is naki. Is how it goes up at the end. Naki. That's number 2. Number 3. Tagi. Number 3 is tagi. Tagi. It goes down. It goes down. So when you talk with expression, you got to make sure you use these lines. And make sure when you talk that you're able to say it in that way. Because if you say this wrong, you could say tagi, tagi. And that's just a straight line. Tagi. It doesn't sound right. Even in Apache, people aren't going to know what you're saying. But if you walk up to them and you say, tagi, tagi, they'll know you're talking about the number 3. Same way with 2. Some people say, naki, naki. That's wrong. The way they say, naki. That's not right. They don't know what you're talking about. But if you say it like this, naki, naki, then they know that you're talking about the number 2. So that's why I try to tell everybody that talking in with an expressive tone to your voice is very important. And that's the one thing that I found out. It's a technique that I developed because I'm adapting the old Apache way of teaching. This right here, all these, is not Apache. We didn't have a written language. Our language was first written in 1979, and it was wrong. And then it was reprinted again in 1990. Now there's a dictionary out that models after the White Mountain Apache, San Carlos Apache. So there also is a thing called dialect. And dialect is how you say different words. The same word, you say it differently. But I try to stay away from writing things down, and I speak. I give an oral lesson. Those are my lessons are oral. I never go to written stuff. I tell my students, put all your notebooks away. Some people take Apache courses at our Apache college back home. They have Apache language instructors that are older than me that teach, and they have several there. I think they have like 5 or 6. And I'm the only one in my department. They have 100 students a year go through their classes. You know how many learn how to speak Apache in 1 year? 0. 0. Because this is what they waste all their time on. They try to read and write it. Well, I'm an old-fashioned teacher. I come from the old way of teaching. In 1 year, I have about 20 students in my class. In 1 year, they can all speak Apache. They can all have a conversation with each other. I can call on somebody. If Vanya was one of my regular students, I could call on her and I say, okay, Vanya, count from 10 to 1 in Apache. And instead of looking through a piece of paper, she would recall it from memory. And that makes it stick a lot better. You pick up the language better. And you can use different words in different sentences in different ways. You can even change the tone of a word and it becomes a totally different meaning. One single word, same word spelled the same, but the way you pronounce it will change its meaning.
Excuse me. It will be hard for me to remember all what you say. Well, va a ser difícil para mí recordar todo lo que dijo. Voy a tratar de sumarizar. Yo sé que la mayoría de la audiencia entiende inglés, pero bueno, básicamente que la manera en que él enseña es una manera de la manera antigua, la manera en que se enseña el lenguaje, que es de manera oral, de forma oral. Comenta él que pues bueno, sí está escrito, pero que la primera vez que se escribió el lenguaje fue en 1979 y lo tuvieron que rehacer porque no hubo no consideraban que estaba correcto y lo volvieron a escribir en 1990. Ahora existe un diccionario para la tribu de la Montaña Blanca, pero hay también dialectos y variantes de un lugar a otro. Entonces el de San Carlos dice que aunque hay más de 5 instructores pues ancianos, pues que ellos pueden pasar 100 estudiantes a través de ellos, pero que 0 estudiantes aprenden, y con el método que ha estado aplicando el señor Stevens, pues ya ha hecho hablar a 20 estudiantes en un año. Sí, entonces, no sé si se me escapó algo más, pero repetía al principio de la línea borracha, que cuando hace esta seña quiere decir que hay que darle acentuación para darle, bueno, que no suene plano, que no suene monótono. Entonces, espero no se me haya escapado mucho. Go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, so we're going to do a little test. So I want you guys to repeat after me. I'm going to teach you the numbers 1 through 10, and we're not even going to write it down. As a matter of fact, can we turn this off real quick?
¿Cómo le apagamos para que no se vea? No sé, ¿con este?
¿O con esto?
No.
That's good. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Ahí.
Okay. Va a ser una prueba, va a hablar, no quiere que lo que esté escrito, nada más que repitan después de.
So if you didn't take notes on the last one, you're going to have to learn it my way. Now I want everybody to repeat after me. We're going to go through the numbers 1 through 10. And when you say the numbers, say it out loud so I can hear you. I want to hear how you pronounce it.
Que va a hacerles la prueba, que si no tomaron notas van a tener que aprender a su manera, repitiendo. Entonces ahorita quiere que repitan fuerte lo que les va a enseñar. Tasa'e, Naki, Tagi, Di'i, Ashla'i, Gustan, Gustiri, Tsepi, Gustai, Gunaznan. You see how easy that was? Nobody wrote it down. You guys all counted to 10 in Apache, and I did not hear one person who pronounced it wrong. Everybody pronounced it just right. So, one more time. Tasa'e, Naki, Tagi, Di'i, Ashla'i, Gustan, Gustiri, Tepi, Ingustai, Gunaznan, Ahiyat. Dijo gracias al final.
¿Voy a preguntarle cómo se dice entonces de nada? How do you say you're welcome?
You're welcome.
There's no word for.
No hay palabras. No, hay muchas palabras que no se utilizan en el Apache. Por ejemplo, parte del hola y el adiós. Hay un hola y un adiós, pero no significan eso. Significan cómo están las cosas y hasta que nos volvamos a ver, ¿verdad? Pero se toma como el hola y el adiós. No hay palabras diferentes.
I'll explain why there's no.
Voy a explicar por qué no hay un.
When you say ahiyat, gracias to somebody, you give them a piece of you. You give them. You say ahiyat, thank you. If you say you're welcome to me, the gift I gave you, you're just giving it back to me. And that's disrespectful for the person that gave it to you. So in the Apache culture, it's very respectful. You respect each other. You respect anybody you talk to. You address them properly, and there are certain words you don't say in front of the women. There are certain words that you don't say in front of the men. Men don't say certain words, and neither do women. But that's kind of like an old custom that's going away. Now everybody says the same thing. But when you are able to hear the language like that, and you repeat it over and over and over again, eventually it's going to pick up here. And I teach my students how to use their brain. Instead of, when I say, what's the word for 5? Instead of reaching for a piece of paper, they start searching up here.
Sí, bueno, dice, primero empieza con que en la cultura apache cuando se dice gracias estás dando una parte de ti. Cuando le dices que es bienvenido o le dices de nada, es como si no estuvieras aceptando esa parte de él que te está dando ese gracias. Por eso esa palabra no existe. Por formas antiguas de la cultura también dice que hay palabras que las mujeres no dicen, palabras que los hombres no dicen, pero que esto está cambiando y pues que ahora ya todo el mundo habla todo tipo de palabras. También comenta que reta a los estudiantes para que aprendan, para que busquen en su memoria las palabras. Por ejemplo, si les dice a un estudiante, dime cuál es el número 5, en lugar de que busquen una libreta, que lo hace que busque en su memoria ese número, lo pueda decir.
Now I want you to repeat after me again. I'm going to teach you your first Apache sentence, and it pertains to your everyday life.
Dice que les va a pedir que repitan otra vez después de él y que les va a enseñar su primera oración en Apache que les va a ser útil para toda la vida.
So listen carefully. I'm going to say the whole sentence, and then you're going to repeat after me. Ostak Yuria. Ostak Yuria. Ostak Yuria. Ostak Yuria. Ostak Yuria. You guys just spoke your very first sentence and something that you do every day. What you just said was, I am going to school.
Dice que acaban de repetir una frase que generalmente usan todos los días, que es voy a la escuela. Ostak Yuria.
Naisi Yuria. Naisi Yuria. Naisi Yuria. I am going to work.
Esa frase es para voy a trabajar.
Now do you guys see a repetition there? Both work and school are different. Otak, naisi. But the second part is the same. Yuria. Yuria means I am going. I am going. But you're not saying where. But with the first word, you said I'm going to school. I'm going to work. So when I teach the Apache language, I use repetitious sentences like that. Ostak Yuria, Naisi Yuria, Izeh Bhagawan Yuria, Yage Bhagawan Yuria. You see how Izeh Bhagawan and Yage Bhagawan have the same Gawan at the end, Gawan. But Izeh is medicine. And Yage is clothes. So you could say hospital is there, Bhagawan, is a hospital where you get medicine. Yage Bhagawan is a store because a store has clothes where you can buy clothes at a store. So those are the names that we have for hospital and a store. So you have a lot of repetitious words in there, and that's what you got to pick up on, and you're never going to pick up on that if you're always writing notes.
Sí, di otras dos frases, que es Ise Bagowa y Yage Bagowa, que si se fijan al final dice la misma frase que es Bagowa, que es la casa de, y el primero es Ise, la casa de la medicina, por así decirlo, para el hospital, y la casa de la ropa, que es para las tiendas, que lo hace repetitivo para que se vaya memorizando, pero que si ustedes están tomando notas, es probable que a lo mejor no lo memoricen o no lo aprendan o no lo razonen.
Okay, let's do the numbers again. Repeat after me. Tasa'e. Nake. Tagi. Dingi. Ashla'i. Kustan. Kustiri. Sepi. Ngustai. Gunis nan. Tasae. Naki. Tagi. Dii. Ashlai. Gustan. Gustiri. Sepi. Ngustai. Gunas nan. One more time. Tasae. Naki. Tagi. Dii. Ashlai. Gustan. Gustiri. Sepi. Ngustai. Gunas nan. Now, what's that number? Ashlai. Tasae. When you first go through this, it's hard to pick it up. You kind of get confused, but it only takes 1 or 2 people in the class to say it. And then it pops up in your memory for everybody else, and then they all join in. You become your own teachers. I always tell my students, I'm not the teacher. I'm not the teacher. All I do is I put the information out there and you guys do what you want with it. You're going to be your own teacher. You're going to learn how to speak Apache on your own terms, not mine.
Dice que, bueno, en las clases selecciona 1 o 2 estudiantes para que repitan o para hacerles alguna pregunta y que eso favorece a que los demás también se enganchen, voy a decirlo así de esa manera, se activen, que estén atentos en la clase y que siempre les dice a los estudiantes que él no es el profesor, que los profesores son los estudiantes los que tienen que mostrar lo que están aprendiendo. Los estudiantes son los profesores.
So when I talk to my class, I'll tell stories. I'll tell about a story that happened to me. I always use myself as an example because one of the biggest things that keeps Apache people from learning the language is they're embarrassed. They're shy to say it. But if you create an atmosphere, if I can create an atmosphere in this class, I don't know any one of you. I'm seeing you guys all for the first time. But I can create an atmosphere in this class to where you're all going to feel comfortable. Every one of you are going to feel comfortable with each other. And you're going to start helping each other. And I'll go like this. And then you'll look at each other and somebody will mumble it. And somebody will say it again. Well, I'm creating an atmosphere where you're all comfortable with each other. You get to know each other. And I met Vanya last year in July. I met Fernando last year in May. Fernando came to my granddaughter's ceremony, sunrise ceremony. Mr. Rojas brought him along. I met Mr. Rojas quite a while back. He became my student, so we got to know each other that way.
Sí, bueno, primero comentó que en la clase trata de crear una atmósfera, bueno, que primero cuenta historias de cosas reales que le pasan a él, que porque una de las cosas que nos frenan para aprender es que podemos sentirnos apenados de situaciones reales, ¿verdad?, que nos pueden pasar. Entonces es la manera en que él hace una atmósfera de confianza, que la gente empieza a tener confianza, y que también cuando en la clase hace una seña para decir cierto número, que alguien murmura y ya la clase empieza a pues hablar entre la clase hasta que determinan o pueden saber cuál es la respuesta. Entonces la manera en que hace que la clase tenga confianza. También comentó que conoció a Vania el año pasado en julio y que conoció a Fernando el año pasado en mayo, que fue a la ceremonia de la pubertad de su nieta, y pues que yo también fui en mayo a la ceremonia de la pubertad y que ya hace tiempo que me conoce a mí.
Everybody take a good look at me. Now imagine you want to be friends with me. You want to be my friend. You want to know about me. You know I'm Apache. You know I speak the language. You know I'm an instructor. But that's all you know about me. You don't know how old I am. You don't know what kind of ice cream I like? You don't know what kind of soda I drink, or if I drink soda? What do I do for a living? What's my hobby? Learning the language is like becoming a friend with it. You have to learn about them. And you can't just walk up to somebody. I can't just walk up to Vanya and say, Vanya, what you do 4 years ago in July? What were you doing back then? That's kind of improper to ask somebody a question like that. So you have to become friends first. I'll say, Vanya, that's a pretty name. And she'll say, gracias. And then I'll leave it right there. I won't say anything else. That's an Apache's way of respecting somebody's privacy. Apaches are really private people, so when you learn the language, you gotta respect its privacy, but at the same time, you gotta learn about it, so you gotta give a part of yourself. So I asked her, Vanya, may I ask how old you are? I asked her that for the first time earlier. I'm surprised she told me. But anyway, then I told her how old I was, so that I was not taking anything from her without giving something back.
Sí, bueno, también está muy larga esta frase, pero comenta que todo el mundo quiere conocer al instructor, todo el mundo quiere conocer al profesor, todo el mundo quiere ser su amigo, pero dice no puede ser su amigo si no saben si toma o no toma soda, o de qué sabor, o si le gusta la nieve, o cuáles son sus hobbies, o de qué vive, qué hace, en qué trabaja. Entonces, que hasta que conoce uno todos esos detalles es cuando puede considerarse que es su amigo, y que el lenguaje pues es algo parecido, ¿verdad? Que tiene que conocerlo, lo tiene que conocer, pero también una manera de conocer pues es a través del lenguaje, que por ejemplo puede llegar con Vania y decirle que qué bonito nombre tiene, y que Vania le dice gracias, y pues ya se retira, ¿verdad? Pero puede haber otra situación donde hay una interacción, o sea que a lo mejor no puede llegar y preguntarle cuántos años tiene a la primera, porque pudiera ser impropio, ¿verdad? Pero de alguna forma, que el lenguaje apache es muy respetuoso, y le puede decir, te podría preguntar cuántos años tienes, y si ella le responde, entonces él le responde, yo tengo tantos años, y de esa forma ya no se quedó únicamente con la información, sino que dio información a cambio. Entonces es cuando empieza la interacción entre las personas, ¿verdad? Que no nada más le digas algo y ya no hay conversación, y pues ya se tiene que retirar. Entonces, ya ando, creo que hasta ahí vamos. Go ahead.
Tasae. Nake. Tagi. Dii. Ashlai. Gustan. Gustiri. Tsepi. Gustai. Guneznan. Every now and then in class, I will throw that lesson in. We'll just go from 1 to 10 for no reason whatsoever. And we'll do it twice. Eventually it's going to stick. If I say 10, somebody should be able to say to me, con es none. 1, hasta F. 3, Tagi. You have to use a reference. I give these references all the time in class about everything. I sometimes adopt a technique they call TPR, Total Physical Response. This is what you use on little kids, ages 5 and 6 on down. You stand them up by a chair and you say "nta," even though they don't know the language, and you just keep saying "nta, nta," and they're gonna look at you and they know you're saying something to you. They're saying something to you, but they don't know what you're saying. So you look at them and you say "nta, nta," and the kids will do this right away. Immediately, kids are really good at this. And then you say "nanta, nanta," and the kids will get shy and laugh. You keep saying nanta, then you go like this, nanta, and they'll stand up. And you say nta, they'll sit down, nanta, they'll stand up. You do that to them 3 or 4 times, maybe twice through class, and then keep doing it in every other class for about 3 weeks. I guarantee you they're going to pick it up fast. So if you tell all the kids, tanzi is to stand up, so they'll all stand up in class. And what I usually do is when I tell them tanzi, they'll all stand up. And here's what I'll do. I'll do this. I'll grab a cup of coffee, I'll drink it, I'll talk to somebody. And kids will stand there. They will not move. So I finally get up and I look at all of them and I say, Nta, and then they'll all sit down. When you do things that way, it also works for adults. But adults have an attention span about that wide, where the kids have an attention span that wide. They're curious. We as adults aren't curious anymore because we think we know. We think that we don't have to learn. So our attention span gets smaller and smaller and smaller until pretty soon we're cramming everything that we feel like we should know into just this little window of learning. We need to go back to being children again. When a child walks up to something or in a class and is willing to learn, they walk into class like this, with their arms stretched out wide, ready to grab anything that comes their way. When an adult walks into a class, they carry their books like this closed. They'll set it down and they'll sit down and then immediately go for the phone or whatever it is that you do. You don't walk in and say hi to everybody that you pass by. You don't say I'm sorry to somebody's foot you stepped on. You give them a mean look if they don't give you room when you walk by. That's because our attention span is small. It's little. I'm guilty of that too. So watch a child next time. A child can be your greatest teacher, especially when it comes to learning a language. I can walk up to any child outside right now. Any child, doesn't matter who it is. And I'll walk up to them and I'll say hi and I'll say, Tasae. I guarantee you they'll repeat after me. They'll say what I say. That's the kind of atmosphere I try to create in my classrooms. And of course, I gave my students some homework one time.
Sí, bueno, empezó comentando que de vez en cuando durante la clase vuelve a tirar otra vez los números, ¿verdad? Decir que repitan los números y que eso lo hace 2 o 3 veces durante la clase, y si lo hace durante 2 o 3 semanas, pues bueno, finalmente van a terminar memorizándolo. Que aparte da referencias aisladas, ¿verdad? Que de repente pregunta por el 3 o por el 5 para ver quién responde, no únicamente la serie de números, sino números aislados para empezar a ubicarlos mentalmente, ¿verdad? Hacer un mapa mental. Y bueno, dice que aparte utiliza el TPR, que es la respuesta física o instrucciones con respuesta física. Por ejemplo, el sentarse, si le dice a alguien que se siente, o a un niño, si le dice que se siente, pues a lo mejor no le entiende, se lo repite varias veces, pero si no le entiende, pues ya hace la seña y ya finalmente se sienta, y luego le dice que se levante, y si no le entiende, pues le hace la seña hasta que se levanta. Mencionaba acerca de que si un profesor entra a una clase y le dice a los niños que se paren y él se ocupa en otra cosa, que los niños van a estar parados hasta que él les da la instrucción de sentarse. Y comenta que los niños pues llegan con un espectro de aprendizaje, un span de aprendizaje muy amplio, y que los adultos pues ya llegan con un espectro de aprendizaje muy pequeño, un span de aprendizaje muy pequeño, que los niños llegan con los brazos abiertos y que los adultos pues llegan hasta con los brazos cruzados, y pues llegan, se sientan y a veces hasta en el celular, ¿verdad? Que a veces ni saludan. Entonces pues por ahí va la explicación.
When I gave my students homework, I gave them one single phrase in Apache, and this was last summer. they had already started taking the class, so they were learning words already. And I had to reference something that they always thought of when they thought of the word Apache. Not just the language, but Apache. So I picked the most famous person that's an Apache, and that's Geronimo. I didn't tell them, but I used one of his quotes. This is a quote that he said. This was actually the very, very last phrase he said as a free man.
Sí, dice que el verano pasado le dio a sus estudiantes una frase, escogió una frase de un personaje muy famoso que es Jerónimo, que esta frase pues fue una de las últimas frases que pronunció siendo un hombre libre antes de ser mandado como prisionero de guerra, que es de Jerónimo.
What I said to them, I wrote it on a piece of paper, or I wrote it on the board, and I said, what I wrote down was, Gonyul Aikego Nashane. I didn't tell them what it meant. I didn't tell them who it was from. But I put 2 clues, and I made it into a shirt. I made a print that said that Gonyul Aikego Nashane. There was 2 clues on the shirt, and I wore it in class. And then I told them, this is your homework. I say, you read this print on my shirt, there's 2 clues on here. That's your homework. When you guys figure out what that says, I'll give each one of you a shirt with that print on it in your favorite color at my expense. So I made homework fun.
Que dio una tarea, esa tarea pues era, escribió la frase en el pizarrón, y pues pidió que averiguaran qué significaba, y que se hizo una playera con la frase para dar pistas, y la frase era Gonyula Ikego Shana Nashane. Entonces pues esa fue la tarea o la asignación que dio.
So I told them the clues are in the shirt. The first clue that should have gave them away was a picture. Had a picture of Geronimo on there. That should have told them that it was probably something he said. And then the second clue was the quotation marks above it. They should have known that I quoted him. If they picked up on those 2 clues, they would start searching for all the famous things that he said. Well, this went on for about a month and a half. Finally, I said, you can search anywhere. You can call other Apache teachers. You can call to the college. You can talk to somebody you know who speaks Apache. Figure it out. And you guys come back to me. When you guys figure it out, I'll give you guys all a shirt. Well, it turns out that they did figure it out. Somebody knew what it meant. They knew what Gonyul meant, is the wind. And they knew, some of them knew what Aikego means. Aikego means like something. You're like something. And then they saw the picture and they said, well, it must be Geronimo. So it's something that he said, so they'll start researching in history books. And then when they started a chat room on Facebook, and I told them, I don't want to be a part of the chat room. That's where you guys go to figure things out without me. So they all went to this chat room and they're all talking to each other. This is the atmosphere that I created. Even out of the class, they were together. And then finally, they came back to me. They said, I think we know what it means. And I said, okay, so who's going to be the spokesperson for all of you? I said, the spokesperson is going to be the one to get in trouble if he gets it wrong. So I hope you guys all discussed it with each other. Well, they did pick a spokesperson, and fortunately that person got it right. And what he said was, once I moved about like the wind. That was Geronimo's most famous quote, and that was the very last thing he said before he surrendered for the last time and became a prisoner of war for 23 years until he finally died. He is the only person of this country that died as a prisoner of war at the hand of his own country. The only one. And once they figured it out, I finally told them, well, the two clues were the quotation marks and the picture. So you guys figured it out. I said, that's good. So those are the references that I use when I teach the language. That's an old way of teaching. Instead of writing things down, writing the language down. I don't write. I'm not an expert writer. I can read it. I'm not very good at it, but I can read it. I can spell it, but not very good. But I can speak it. And your ultimate goal should be to speak the language. Speak it. Yeah, you can write it all you want. There's a lot of people I know in San Carlos that can read and write the Apache language, but they cannot say one word.
Bueno, dice, regresando a lo de la frase, retó a los estudiantes que dio seis semanas para que averiguaran qué era la frase y que les iba a comprar una playera de su color preferido con esa frase a los que lo averiguaran. Se inició un grupo, un chat, donde pues les pidió a los estudiantes que él no fuera parte de ese chat, que averiguaran, y pues bueno, había algunas pistas ahí. Se conocía la palabra gonjul, que es de para viento, y aikeo, que es que le gusta algo o como algo, y pues que hubo debates y se seleccionó un estudiante para que dijera el significado de la frase, y que finalmente pues lo dijo de manera correcta. El significado de la frase es: alguna vez me moví como el viento, y es una frase que dijo Jerónimo todavía como hombre libre, antes de ser mandado como prisionero de guerra por 23 años. Y dice que es el único hombre de este país que murió como prisionero de guerra en su propio país.
Dasae. Naki. Tagi. Nii. Ashlai. Kustan. Kustiri. Tepi. Ingustai. Gunasnan. You see how you guys are starting to learn it already? You're starting to pick it up. So, I give lessons like that every now and then throughout class. I'll always throw something back in there that we've learned already. Repetition is key. Repetition is extremely important, because once you get to where we are at now with my students, it's all about conversation skills. And those conversation skills are going to come from these few words that you know. And you're going to build off of those words. So it's very important that you get that repetition in. And when you say it loud enough so that the person sitting next to you hears you say it. They can hear you. They can hear you pronounce it. The person behind you, the person 3 seats behind you, make sure they know that they can hear you. Because your voices are now teachers. I'm no longer the teacher. I just throw out a word and you guys all say it, and then you guys teach yourself how to learn to say that word. That's why I always say I'm not the teacher in the class. I'm just another student. I'm just somebody who throws stuff out there and you guys do what you want with it. So it's very important that you build off of each other. And the only way you can build off of each other is you build a comfortable environment for everybody in that class. Not just one, but everybody. I have a Swedish student in class, all the way from Sweden. She knows more Apache than anybody else in that class.
Sí, bueno, de la conversación anterior dijo, pues bueno, ustedes, de la conversación anterior también comentaba que él conocía, que su método es oral, que él puede leer muy bien, más o menos, y que pues no escribe tan bien, pero que él conoce personas que leen perfecto allá en San Carlos, pero que no hablan una sola palabra de Apache. También luego comentó acerca de que cuando ustedes empiezan a repetir, por ejemplo, ahorita que dijo que ustedes solo dijeron el número 10 ya sin repetir después de él, que sus voces, que ya él deja de ser el maestro, y que ahora sus voces son las que enseñan, los enseñan a ustedes mismos, pero ustedes también van a transmitir esa palabra, ¿verdad? Se convierte entonces automáticamente en maestros. We have 5 minutes left.
Okay. So, I'm going to finish this sitting down. Now, we have done one Apache lesson in class today. You guys all learned how to count to 10. That's more than most people can do anywhere else in school in 3 months. You guys did it in 1 hour. Because I taught you in a different way that you can learn. A better way that you can learn. And you can learn from each other, not just me. So remember, I am a instructor, I am a teacher, but look at me more as a friend. And you're trying to get to know me. That's the whole idea about learning this Apache language. You want to be its friend. You want it to be your friend. And the only way to do that is to slowly get closer to the language. So that when you get to a certain point, you'll be like me. You'll be very fluent in the language, and you'll be able to say, that's 1 through 10. And it just rolls right off the tongue very easily. So if some of you recorded this audio or video, or you can go back to look at some video somewhere, or go to my Facebook page. Go to Apache Language Preservation under Facebook. That's our official page for our department. And I have videos posted in there from June of 2021. You can re-look at all those videos and start from the very beginning, and I guarantee you by the time you're done watching those videos, you'll be able to speak Apache too, even if I'm not there. So remember, I'm not the teacher. I'm just a friend, and you're just trying to get to know me, just like the language. Thank you very much.
La última parte de la traducción que estoy haciendo, había comentado que tiene un estudiante de Suiza que maneja el idioma mejor que muchos dentro de la misma reservación, dentro de la propia reservación, y comenta acerca del logro que tuvieron el día de hoy, que aprendieron a contar del 1 al 10, algo que en la escuela se pudiera tomar, no recuerdo si fue 1 mes o 3 meses. Ustedes lo acaban de aprender en esta última hora, y pues que pues él es su amigo, no es su profesor, es su amigo, pero pues que no lo vean como un profesor sino como un amigo, y que al lenguaje también lo vean como un amigo, que lo vayan conociendo poco a poco, y va a llegar el momento en que pueden contar del 1 al 10 de manera fluida, tal como él lo hace. También que si grabaron o que si grabaron o no grabaron esta sesión, pueden consultar su página de Facebook, la página oficial del departamento para que él trabaja, que es el Apache Language Preservation, y ahí hay videos desde julio del año pasado con varias clases, varias lecciones, y pues que muchas gracias. I think that was it. Thank you very much for your time and transmit your knowledge. Not only the knowledge on the language, but the knowledge of how to approach the language. Mañana vamos a tener otra sesión de las 9 de la mañana a la 1 de la tarde. Esperemos poder contar con su asistencia para las siguientes sesiones.
Before we leave, I want to teach you just 2 more words. So repeat after me.
2 palabras más antes de que nos vayamos.
Ahia.
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 Thank you. Gracias. Apaches do not have a word for goodbye. We never say goodbye to each other. But we do say Anagotzin. Anagotzin. That means let's meet again.
How do you say the name Geronimo in
Coyose. Coyose. Coyose means when you're sitting somewhere and you're thinking about something, or you just came back from a long hike and you're finally caught your breath, you rested, and then all of a sudden you take a sigh of relief or a breath, like a sigh, a deep sigh. And that's what that means. People mistake it for meaning somebody who yawns. It does not mean one who yawns. Coyose means that act of going.
Suspiro, un suspiro profundo.
Yeah, that's what that means. That's his name. That's what he used to do when he was young.
Pero generalmente se usa la palabra Jerónimo porque tratamos de no decir los nombres de aquellos que ya están en el mundo espiritual. We try not to say the names of those who passed to the spiritual world.
Bueno, pues muchísimas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Muchas gracias. Un aplauso para ustedes mismos que aprendieron a hablar.